Hello, good morning, and welcome to Arcturian Philosophy. Today, what I will be talking about, just as I said with the secret key activator, he does these disclosures. And so now I think I'm going to go about a bit of a disclosure, which I know many people have known about now, but I hadn't known about it until the beginning of February. So it made sense, but it was a little bit shocking or confusing at first. So what is this? I've titled this Greys and Arcturians Meet the Parents. That is a deliberate joke because when I became introduced to the Zeta Reticuli, or their technology, the Arcturians at the particular place where I was put on Meet the Parents as a bit of a joke. And what is the joke here? The idea is that Arcturians are actually the Zeta Reticuli of the future who had evolved and sustained their own race. Now that is good news. It's quite good news for everyone who's felt sympathy for the Zeta Reticuli and the Yael. Thinking, oh, how is your race going to survive? Oh, look, guys, we did it. But some things appeared to go wrong. It seems, as far as I can get straight, now don't quote me on this, it appears that Arcturians, who were from a future timeline, came back in time to try to assist the Earth and to try to explain or assist the Yael Zeta Reticuli with what to do to save their race, because they could come back in time. They could go backwards in time and say, well, we are you, the saved race, and this is how you need to go about it. It seems, though, that you see the difference is so drastic that the Zeta Reticuli and the Yael weren't really ready to accept the answer of consuming light energy and not taking energy from pain and letting go of the iridescent blue energy stuff and all of that, and all of the just awful programming that they would go about doing. They weren't ready to let go of that, and so it appears they managed to take at least one Arcturian captive at some point. This appears to be what I keep on being told, though I'm not sure if the Greys figured out how to evolve into a blue-looking Yael. Essentially, that's what Arcturians are. They're like blue Yael. Or whether or not an Arcturian who was from a future timeline was captured and then hybridized. It appears that what they wanted to do was see if they could take an Arcturian from a future timeline and hybridize them, make them a slave first of all, and then hybridize them to survive in the way that the Arcturians were surviving, but not have to go about all that positive energy stuff. Be able to keep the iridescent blue energy from pain and branding and BDSM and everything that, if you like those things, wonderful, but ultimately you have to stop liking them if you want to survive long term. And it seems like the Yael Zeta Reticuli were not quite ready for that concept. So what we have now are essentially, it's called a farm, which is what I learned when I was in a cube-like structure, a level 1 cube-like structure, and they would farm, basically, Arcturian, hybrid Arcturian Yael types to use for purposes of control, to try to hybridize them for abilities and then attempt to use them like robots, exactly like humans, except with Arcturians it seemed like that for all the Arcturian hybrids, they had them in a kind of separate sort of prison, a very intricate system, because they were just so smart. They broke out all the time. I noticed it seemed like there were also some Yael, some more classic Yael in this prison type system, but not as many. And that the guards were actually Arcturians, Yael, or reptilians, who were enacting kind of like a frequency net, what the reptilians call net, or frequency like spiral, which was also a labyrinth, and also a cage of some type. Actually, I can show you what was repeatedly drawn for me when I was in this level 1 cube, was people trying to show me this spiral formation, like an ammonite or like a nautilus shell, a spiral that goes this way, but then instead of expanding outward, instead going back to the beginning. And what I noticed in every single drawing that people tried to pass to me or sneak to me so that I could see it, is that there would be a gap right here between the beginning of the spiral and this part where the spiral instead terminates around here. There would always be a gap there, and I was never quite sure what exactly that gap would mean. And also, if you take a look at this and you look at it from a frequency perspective of 3 dimensions, you have what looks like a hill or a pyramid, or not exactly a pyramid, but some of you might be familiar with the term Arcturus ant. This doesn't say, this is nothing against the person whose channel happens to be Arcturus ant, but there's an Arcturian ant program. They attempt to get them to think that they are ants in an anthill, you know, all working together and whatnot, when really the Arcturians that are inside this prison system, who appear to run most of the very, very difficult cube structures. And I tried to figure out who runs it above them, and above them it would be your huge floating, hissing, kind of crazy Zeta Reticuli, who would be all the way at the top. But you can see the Arcturians who were within this prison system also had an extreme amount of control. It would appear that they would be trying to ask me, how do we get out? How exactly do we get out of this? They also, this gets into more disclosure, they also knew all about the all-seeing eye concept. They appeared to adhere to some of the Hermetics type principles or Masonic principles. One thing Bashar did to me, the night that we met, we were being subject to some sort of strange Arcturian experiment. Yes, even being an Arcturian hybrid, they were experimenting in some strange way as to how we would react and our psychological behavior under certain types of duress. And they were trying to get Bashar to hurt me. And finally what he did was he gave me a mild scar on my one eye, nothing that wouldn't heal, just something to make me close my eye, and then cursed my blanket, so that then I only had a white sheet to put around myself. So I put the white sheet around myself and was walking around with my hand like this covering my eye, or like this covering my eye, and I could just feel people laughing at me, because what is the idea behind that? The closed the one eye and wearing the white. He thought that was hysterical. But it seems like this is quite a bit of a problem now, that we have so many Arcturians that are slaves inside of this system, along with Yael that are enslaved inside of the system. If you've ever felt an interest in the Zeta Reticuli, say you know you are Arcturian in some way, and you felt interested in the Zeta Reticuli, or interested in the Yael, or sympathetic to them in some kind of strange way, yet you're not really sure how or why, that is why. That's because we know we're the ones who managed to figure out the problem for them, and that we have an incredibly vested interest in trying to help them, because we don't ultimately end up surviving, at least Arcturians don't end up surviving unless they manage to help the Yael figure out what the heck to do as far as their genetic engineering and how they're actually raising their children. That is one big thing that Arcturians are disagreeing with, as far as how the children are being raised and how they're being almost taught that they're machines, and that this is one of the fundamental problems of what is being done as far as the Arcturians that are basically being farmed in this way. So I would like to also caution you against any, and I mean any program there that solicits something along the lines of hybrid children or helping you have a hybrid child. Let me tell you what happens to these hybrid children. They are subject to torture and programming from a very young age. They are mistreated and used as slaves from as young as they can be made to do it. It is, and it is very atrocious, and they also control the children from a very young age. About the age of 4 is what I was told. The equivalent of a human about the age of 4 is when they start things like rape, sexual rituals, programming, that they're all somewhat exposed to the Egyptian Hermeticism, which there's nothing wrong with Egyptian Hermeticism as long as you omit the concept of killing children. They make the children fight with each other to survive. It's a survival of the fittest mentality. And they're taught about how this is a good thing, somehow. They are, earlier, I mean, during World War II, they were taught about ethnic cleansing and how only the strong should be surviving, and they were made to think that this was okay, the ones who were enslaved or who had grown up in this kind of system from Arcturians who had been captured. Now, I know there's got to be a timeline existing in which Arcturians are properly on Arcturus and not in some kind of strange ammonite-shaped prison system here, because there are too many Arcturians, there are too many human hybrid Arcturians who sense that something, that sense the things that are wrong, that sense this is what where I come from looks like. This is how we act there. We don't do these strange things or even understand these strange things that you're doing here. Even if they're someone raised inside of the programming, it doesn't make any sense as to why are you doing these things. So there's that memory. There's a memory of what you could call the future that we have. And so this is something difficult for, I suppose, many Arcturians to talk about. And I do mean the blue ones when I say that, because you'd be very surprised to see how diverse their personalities are, and how they'll feel about different things people will say about them, or how that will affect them. But I know this is something that needs to be talked about, because they very much are wanting to get out of what they're stuck inside. Now, there are some that I noticed were so mind-warped that they liked being inside the system, Think about it as someone who's selling out and really, really liking it and being kind of half not there, and Lucifer or whoever at the wheel. There would be a handful that were like that, but most of them were resistant and just simply could not figure out how to get out of the system that they were in. They would know that they were in the wrong place, that they would know that their real home is somewhere else, but that they would not be able to escape the system somehow. So that is our first disclosure. Greys and Arcturians, meet the parents. Yes, if you are Arcturian, the reason that you have sympathy for those Greys and those Yael is because we were them at one point in time, and if it's somewhat nice to think, at least, if you know that you have some sort of Arcturian genetics, at least you know that you are playing a part in the furthering of that future, of that future timeline to properly occur, as it ought to, because there's resistance from Greys and Yaels, from some of them, that don't want to go into the concept of the light mentality, of consuming light rather than consuming dark light energy, or darker energy. And it seems like they're slowly starting to get the picture, but we are very fortunate to at least be able to assist in this way, though I can say it's a rather difficult way of assisting sometimes, especially when you're perceived as a threat inside of the system because you're doing what's correct and everyone else is doing what's wrong. So there you have it. Who are the Arcturians actually? Well, the Arcturians are many things, but the Arcturians are the evolved versions of the Zeta Reticuli who wanted to save their race, and oh look, they did, but they're experiencing some infighting as to agreeing over how they end up saving their race, or how to become the Arcturians that they see of the future. So I will leave you with that. Many blessings to you today, and thank you for watching Arcturian Philosophy. If you can donate anything to me, any crystals, if you can, even cursed ones, if you can donate anything to me, any money, any bike or laptop or crystals, then email me at arcturianphilosophy@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.